I've been trying to figure out what I was going to cover for Christmas, and I decided that I would watch all three of the Midsomer Murders Christmas episodes and rank them. And now I've watched them all in one evening, and I'm just confused. But I'll try to tell you the plots of these. The Midsomer Murders, it's not a good show. I know people love it. I know people are going to come for me with their torches for saying that. And some of its episodes are brilliant. Some of them are the greatest cozy mysteries ever made. But most of them are just like the McDonald's of television. Like, you remember, like, that great birthday party you went to at the McDonald's playground in 1980, and you remember, like, this Big Mac that you ate when you were stoned. But mostly it's just like, I've got a coupon and everyone can agree on eating this. I'm sorry. Anyway, that's the way I always think of this show. It's not great, but there sure are a lot of them, and it's been going on like every year, like clockwork, since 1997, with no signs of stopping. They just put out an episode this week, and it was terrible. But I'm sure that one episode this season will be awesome, and it'll have some great, you know, what do you call it? Like, guest murderer of the week. And the good thing is people show up more than once on the show as different characters, which even happened with one of the main characters, but I'll get onto that. Okay, there's 3 Christmas episodes of Midsomer Murders. The one I like the least is called Days of Misrule. This was still starring the original boss, Tom Barnaby, or his wife would call him Tom Barnaby. Oh, that's terrible. And he was on his third sergeant at that time, Jones, who was the most beloved, I believe, or at least the most lusted after by the fandom. And the last one that I can remember the name of without being prompted. And this was an episode where an explosion took place. And now keep in mind, I just watched this and already it's fuzzy. Because really the characters and the conflicts and the family dynamic, which is the B story, is more interesting than a lot of the mysteries on this show, other than the ones where, someone gets killed in some ridiculous fashion. So there's an explosion. I'm not sure if it's on sort of an army base that's full of retired army guys, or a place that has some kind of industrial trucking. And I really did watch this with a close eye, but I couldn't tell you. They're investigating the explosion, but Barnaby and Jones are actually... Wasn't there a show called Barnaby Jones? Never mind. Their names are Barnaby and Jones, and they were on some kind of team building experience. And that was all for comedic purposes, that they were on the team building experience with a boss who was over them, who was trying to be like the cop shop of what's happening now sort of guy, and he's played for laughs. And they don't often... One thing the show is missing is a higher up. They don't have a big problem with bureaucracy. Usually cop shows, there's like a chief constable or somebody that's always getting in their way, trying to not arrest the important people in the community. But this show does have going for it that they don't have that. There's a guy living in this town who is kind of the aspiring Brad Wesley of the town, like the real evil guy that is, I guess, stealing cars, I think was part of it. Stealing and somehow cloning or making fraudulent Ferraris or Bugattis. It didn't make sense to me when it all played out. But he was a jerk. He, in one hilarious scene, he has an underage woman back at his apartment where he lives in his dad's house. And this guy's got to be 30. He's got this 17-year-old girl there. They're drinking champagne and they're slow dancing while his poor old daddy is coming in and yelling at him. And he's going, no, she's spending the night. And the dad's like, no, I've already called a taxi. Family dynamics. This show is all about family dynamics. And this aspiring gangster has got a grandmother that hates him. And this is the only time I've ever heard somebody say, fuck you, grandma, I think ever in my whole life. Like, it's even hard for me to make those words come out of my mouth. And my last grandparent passed in 2017. That's hard to say, but this guy says it. But his grandma hates him, and you'll recognize her as the oldest nun on Call the Midwife. So that's the big guest star in this episode, I think. But there are a lot of people that you recognize. It's got almost nothing to do with Christmas, but they play some Christmas song, like maybe We Wish You a Merry Christmas, during the time when they're falling down while doing like an egg on a spoon or something to do team building with the police. And I didn't remember who was the murderer. The guy who is cloning the cars is the one who does get killed eventually. And there's a chilling moment where his grandmother does say something like, a parent's love is unconditional, a grandparent's is not. And she hated this guy from the day that he was born because her daughter died in childbirth, which I guess, you know, maybe he was a sociopath or narcissist, or maybe he was mistreated all of his life and became a terrible person. I'm not sure. I'm not a flippin' child psychiatrist. And there's a funny scene where a guy describes, one of the villains describes his trip to France and says that he didn't do something because he was surrounded by foreigners, being that he's the English guy in France, but he was surrounded by foreigners. But okay, so Days of Misrule, I'd put that as the lowest one of the three specials, although I seem to have talked about it for a while. The next one is The Christmas Haunting, and this is Barnaby Part 2, John Barnaby, who has been, I guess, on there for 12 or 14 years at this point, but I still think of him as the new guy. And he played a different character on the show. He played a womanizing gardener who got murdered after making his own liquor, and then came back later as the cousin of the first Barnaby and took over the show when Barnaby retired. And now John Barnaby, first he started out being this smug guy that had a psychology degree that figured everything out, but his wife is smarter than him. And instead of bumbling into the mysteries like the first guy's wife did, she would always be on scene as a witness, this one helps him solve the murders because she's smarter than he is. And mostly these days, he just kind of looks like an idiot, gets dumb looks on his faces. It's not that I didn't like the actor who plays John Barnaby. I liked him in his short run on A Touch of Frost. I liked him in the episode he did for Morse. I've seen him in a lot of shows, but on this, I just don't like the character. But this episode is still better than Days of Misrule. It's called The Christmas Haunting. It has the word haunting in the episode, and I like things to do with ghosts or Bigfoot or Jesus or the Mothman or any of your supernatural, cryptids. There's a paranormal investigation. There's somebody gets murdered at the paranormal investigation. He is a womanizer, so it's anyone's guess who has done it. It's a small village. Every one of these takes place in different villages. Usually the people have some stupid hobby that everyone is fighting over in the village, but this one, there's just kind of a crazy girl who does paranormal investigations and her college friend who's helping her. And there's some people who own a gift shop who aren't doing well financially. And I don't know how people do these set designs. This is the worst looking gift shop that I've ever seen. There's just like some strange wallpaper that looks like it came out of an Avon catalog, and some Christmas trees kind of sitting around, and the owner is completely delusional and running around in a Santa suit. But I think those people are just red herrings. And again, the whole point of the story is family relations. There's some people with a house but no money and two last names, and it's their daughter that's running the paranormal investigations. And there's a guy that got run out of town 24 years ago, but he comes back to be with the sister of the big house, no money guy with two names. What else happened? There's a big twist in this one to do with the paranormal investigations, and there's not usually a big twist in these stories. So I did enjoy that part. And this was the first appearance of a new sergeant named Nelson. And also, this was right before John Barnaby and his wife had their baby, who they named Betty Barnaby, who I also think was something to do with the names of people on that show where Jed Clampett played Barnaby in the 70s. So this was the second best episode, and it doesn't matter who did it, really, and they don't try to tell you that there may have been ghosts, so that's unusual. A lot of times these stories will end with a stinger where it may have really been a ghost, but I think it's pretty apparent that there's no ghosts. But we're getting to know Nelson here, the new sergeant, and he never made much of an impression on me, but he did make a horror movie that I really liked, and I will put the name of it in the comments because I can't think of it right now, but he played a bad guy in that, and that was pretty cool. So the best one is called Ghosts of Christmas Past, and this just isn't the best Christmas episode on this show. I know I said this is not a good show, but there's a lot of it. But really, Ghosts of Christmas Past is one of my favorite Christmas episodes of a cozy mystery ever made, and that's because one of the characters played kind of the antagonist on a long-running show that I loved, A Touch of Frost. And so I enjoyed seeing him as a different character. But this one is another big house with no money and a big family with a history of being snots. And there was 9 years. It's kind of like a slasher movie because all of this happens because of something that happened 9 years ago. 9 years ago, the oldest member of this family that owns the house shot himself after his fiancée ran away and had stolen a statue from the family and tried to sell it. Only that was all a clever facade by someone else in the family. And at the beginning, you see that flashback, and there's a puppy that has tinsel on his collar, and he's very sad. He's telling this guy, don't shoot yourself. And it almost makes me not want to watch this episode. There's a sad puppy. There's a sad child who hears this going on from outside the door. Don't worry, the puppy and the child are fine. There's another child in the present day who has flashbacks of seeing this uncle when he was performing as a magician with his fiancée, who came to him as his assistant. And so now there's the whole family getting together, and the younger of the two cousins, the one who saw the guy performing his magic act in the past, opens a Christmas cracker, and it has a foreboding fortune about two people being dead by the end of Boxing Day, which I think is the day after Christmas in England. And there's a really villainous villain in this episode, and it's not the murderer. It's an example of the prime suspect being killed about halfway through the episode. And I would never condone murder, but it's really not sad to see this person be taken out. And I'm guessing that could be representative of something, that it's murder, but it's not really murder. But I don't know what it would be off the top of my head. When we I think we watch shows like this as a way to like take out our own aggression and symbolically, get over on people who have harmed us in the past in a safe way. That's what I'm going to go with. But the great thing about this episode is that the murderer never does that thing where they're talking to someone and then as soon as the person they're talking to looks away, their face turns evil. They play it completely straight through the whole episode, and you almost have no idea until the detectives have an idea who it is. And I forgot to say, in this one, we're back to the original Barnaby. The B story with his family is that he can't stand his in-laws being there, and so he's happy to investigate this murder. And this is the second sergeant that nobody liked. His name was Scott, but I thought the 3 of the Scott episodes were some of my favorites ever on this show. And the murderer is just a real charming motherfucking murderer. And when he finally, or he or she or they, get caught, you're sorry to see them go, and the police are sorry to have to arrest them, to be honest. And it's a wonderful other side of this person, and I may have said too much. So I will wrap it up here. That's what I thought. Number 3, Days of Misrule. Number 2, Something About a Haunting. Number 1, Ghosts of Christmas Past, which is just a wonderful, festive, terribly decorated set. People get what's coming to them. For someone like me that is afraid of social situations, it's almost like a horror movie, like a fun, chilling horror movie to watch this. And I watch this every year. So let me know what you think about Midsomer Murders, what you think about Cozy Murder. Would you put these in another order if you've seen them, or other episodes of Cozy Murder shows that take place at Christmas? I think I'm going to do another episode on the Brokenwood Mysteries next. So study up on those if you're listening to this and you don't want spoilers. Have a good night. I have to do a postscript because I forgot that I could get my editor to stitch a little bit onto the end of this podcast. The name of the horror movie that Sergeant Nelson was in, where he played the killer or the villain, I'm not sure if he was the killer. He was a bad guy anyway. It was called Oddity, and I reviewed it on my blog, which is 7doorsofcinema.com. So you can go and read all about that. I will link it in the description. Okay, good night.